With all the troubles that the Montreal Canadiens are facing lately with their goaltending position, whether it's the foreplay of Sam Montembeault or Jakub Dobeš, or the inability to fix things of goaltending coach Eric Raymond, you hear me complain about it on my show all the time. Well, I decided to go a little bit more in depth by showing you what I know about the goaltending position, not just as a former goaltender myself, but as a coach. Let's talk goaltending on what I call the art of the save. So what does the art of the save mean? Well, easy enough to say that stopping pucks isn't something that's easy to do. You might think it is, but it's not. There's a lot that goes into it, whether it's mentality, whether it's demeanor, whether it's technique, or even mathematics. There's a lot that goes into it. So what I thought I would do is create a small series of about 5 different episodes where I break down exactly what it takes to be a goaltender and the different techniques and such that go with the position. Now, the number one thing you need to know about this position is you need to have a certain skill set and demeanor. There's 6 or 7 different points you have to look for in a player for them to become a goaltender. The most important one, of course, is you have to have a few screws loose. Mine are still in here from when I was 10. So that's one thing. You need to be a little bit of a loopy guy to want to get in front of 100-mile-an-hour shots. So it takes a really special cat to be able to do that. Call me one of them. I wasn't the greatest goaltender in the world. I tried my best, and I had times where I played extremely well and other times where I played like horrid crap. But at the end of the day, that's what goaltending is all about. It's never perfect. If you were perfect, there'd be goose eggs across the leagues everywhere. So what are the steps that you need to take to be a goaltender? What are the most important things that you need to have in your arsenal to be a goaltender? Well, number one, you need to love being a difference maker. The goalie touches the puck in the most important moments of a hockey game all the time, whether it's a game-winning goal, a game-winning save, you name it. A goalie can steal a game, they can shift momentum, and they can completely shut down opponents, depending on the night. Some live for just the responsibility and the pressure of being a goaltender because all the attention's on them. They love being in the limelight. So you got to love being a difference maker. You got to love having that attention on you. Number 2, there's a unique skill set that goes into goaltending that a lot of people think they know, but they don't. One of the most important things you need to have as a goaltender are great reflexes. You can't be a sloth out there that depends solely on your technique to be able to stop pucks. I say this time and time again about goalies, whether it's Montembeault or others. I see Jakub Dobeš. He does have reflexes, maybe not as precise as you'd like, but they're there because he makes good reactionary saves more often than not. But when you take a look at Sam Montembeault's ability to react, his reflexes, they're not there. And as I go through this series, you'll see more and more what I mean by that fact and the reasons why he does certain things in the net. Another thing you need to be is extremely calm. You have to have ice in your veins. You can't be the type of guy who gets nervous with anything because if you do, goaltending's not for you. You're better off being a third-line guy who likes to hit people when he gets pissed off, not a goaltender. You also have to have extremely good hand-eye coordination or pad-eye coordination or blocker-eye coordination, whatever you want to call it. Your ability to track pucks and be able to get your body in front of them is paramount. Some of it's technique, a lot of it's your own individual coordination. You also have to have extremely good flexibility, especially these days. Back when it was more of a stand-up goaltending style, flexibility wasn't important because guys didn't exactly go into the splits every 5 minutes. But nowadays with the butterfly, you need to have very limber joints. You need to be able to go into a full split. There are a lot of things that you need to do, so flexibility is a huge part of it. And one skill that a lot of people overlook is you need to have the ability to read plays. Now, I say that because when players are bearing down on you, you need to recognize exactly what's going on and in your own mind decide how they're going to address it. You need to be able to read and react to what's going on, much like a player does. There's no difference in that respect. You take a look at some of the greatest coaches that have been through the league and some that are currently there. Take a look at Patrick Roy, Jacques Demers, Ron Lowe, who used to be the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, Michel Bergeron, famously the old head coach of the Quebec Nordiques and New York Rangers. All of them, goaltenders. And they make some of the greatest coaches. Why? Because they're on the ice 60 minutes a game, and they tend to understand the game completely differently because they see everything that goes on the ice, whether it's in their own zone and they're watching and trying to stop pucks, or whether it's at the other end watching their own players go around and try to score goals against the opposing goaltender. They see it all. And so goaltenders have not only a unique perspective, but they also have an innate ability to be able to read plays and be able to forecast what's going on. We oftentimes complain about the fact that Montembeault has blinders on and can't see what's going on just 2 feet around him. So reading plays is really, really important. There's also your positional structure. You need to know where you're staying in the crease. You need to know how to predict your angles. And you need to know, you need to rely on positioning and technique rather than just constant movement, because you can't be moving around all the time. Being square to a shot is extremely important. We'll get to all those things, but you need to be able to focus, really focus on where your angles are and stuff like that. As I mentioned, a goaltender needs to know mathematics. He needs to understand certain things. As we progress through this show and these episodes, you'll realize what I'm talking about. You want to shot. You want to face shots and not take him. And I mentioned that before. You want to be the guy that stops pucks, face the 100-mile-an-hour shot, have your screws loose. It's not everybody that is able to do that. Even guys that are out there defensively that are trying to block shots as defenders, they wince when a shot's coming at them. Goaltenders can't afford to flinch. Again, ice in your veins. You're there to stand up and stop the puck. You've got thousands of dollars of gear on you. You shouldn't have to flinch, and you should be able to stop pucks when you're there. Goalies also like being the last line. That, when everybody else is beat, they can't be. They like being relied upon. They like being the center of the team's defense. And most of all, they like having a big impact on every shift. Because every shift, you've always got at least one shift in the offensive zone and one coming back into the defensive zone. So they like that. They like being that last line of defense. And one thing that everybody takes for granted, goalies just don't like getting off the ice. They like being there all the time. Even when they get pulled, they hate coming off the ice. So those are the 7 key points to wanting to become a goaltender. In my case, I became a goaltender because I didn't really have the skill set to be a player. I started late, 10 years old. And I was out there in an old pair of Daou skates that had really weak support around the ankles. So I was one of those guys that used to skate on his ankles, fall down all the time. As the years progressed, as I learned to play in goal, as Micron developed a molded boot, I started skating a little bit better. Obviously, with pads on, my ankles became a little bit stronger and I was able to stand up better on my skates. So that was one thing. And back then, when I started at 10, there was no butterfly. It was about standing up, taking shots, making pad saves, etc. Nothing when it came to the butterfly. As the years progressed, the butterfly became the more popular of the styles, but by then, my playing days were done. I was well into my 20s, and so things changed. And goaltenders had to be a lot more flexible. They had to be a lot more intuitive as far as their ability to play with a technique rather than just their innate ability to stop a puck. That's what I relied upon. And in other cases, kids just naturally want to be in the net. My daughter, for example, when we decided to put her in goalie pads, it was because when we first started her as a player, in all the little festivals they used to have, she decided she wanted to be in net stopping pucks on her own. She didn't want to be skating. She wanted to be there, and she wanted to stop pucks. Maybe she was a bit lazy. That's always a possibility. But she happened to be pretty good at stopping pucks. Good enough that PJ Stock nicknamed her the Wall the next season over when we moved to St. Lazare. And she played along with his son. So there's a lot that goes into it. There's a mentality component. There's a technique component. And the technique doesn't come easy. It's not about the butterfly to start with. Goalies have to be able to develop a unique movement set. Not just the ability to slide, but shuffle. They need to be able to T-push. They need to be able to come out to the top of their crease, go back to their posts rather easily without having to worry about it. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done as far as footwork. It's not all about standing up, taking shots. It's more about footwork. It's more about positioning. And so goaltenders, completely different from players. Players need to learn crossovers. Goalies never do. In fact, a lot of goalies, I'm an exception because I did play later on as a player, but a lot of goalies, when you watch them skate without goalie pads on, they look like they're getting off a bull because they have wider stances. They don't exactly skate the same way. You know, my daughter's like that, just as an example. Because they're so used to skating with pads on, that's just the way they develop their skating ability. So it's a different animal altogether. They don't have to learn crossovers. They need to learn shuffle side to side. They need to learn how to slide on their pads. They need to learn T-pushes. All those good things. They need to learn how to move with their stick in the right position. Completely different. So it takes a completely different mentality because unlike players, goaltenders have to repeat and repeat and repeat more often than anybody else on the ice. With a player, they say that it takes about 1,000 repetitions before you actively keep something in your mind. With goaltenders, it's a lot more than that because every little step you take, every different position you take, every squareness to the shot you take is completely different. You never duplicate the same movement twice in a hockey game when you're a goaltender. As players, sometimes you do. You get used to something, you get into a habit, and so you tend to shoot from the same locations. You tend to post up in the same places when you're on the power play, etc. Goaltenders, yeah, they're in their net. But are they deep? Are they out? Are they in the middle? Are they off to the side? What are they doing? It's always different. Every single movement. So you have to make sure that a goaltender's mentality and his abilities are completely different. That's part one of the art of the save. Just learning what a goaltender's makeup is. You don't need to know more than that. Those are the particular items. Be a little bit of a nut bar, be the guy that wants to be the difference maker, be the center of attention, be flexible, have good reflexes, and then just maybe I might decide to put you in a set of pads and try you out as a goaltender. Next up, we'll look at angles because angles are one of the most important bits of a goaltender's ability to stop pucks. And it's not just about the clock. There's more angles than that you might not have thought about. We'll talk about that in the next episode of The Art of the Save.